All right, 1 out of 4 done. Put some high temp silicone around the oil cooler inlet, and I'll let that dry, and I'll do the fronts. 2 out of 4 done. This is the right front, the other one was the right rear, and got all the AVEX rivets in here, got these big monster rivets in here, and I did this little trick too that I saw Tony do, and where the safety wire goes through to pull them through. I didn't have stainless rivets, so I just put AAPQ 41s, I think, and pre-bent them a little bit to get them to line up with that. But yeah, real happy with the way that came out. And the spacing I did on these, on the little ones, was basically like 3/8 inch from center, and the big ones are 3/4 inch. Yeah, there you go, in case that's helpful for anybody. I don't know, sometimes you just need to get a good angle on something. So here's all the angles. And to be clear with these little rivet things, so you take the mandrels, I punched the mandrels out, and it kind of probably will help the safety wire with wear and tear when it pulls it through. RANS tells you just to drill a little 40 size hole, so this might make it last a little longer. 3 out of 4 done. This is the left front. Goes here, and it's got the 2 brackets mount there, and these are all flush up against the backside there, and I pre-bent them to kind of contour the cylinder just like the other side. I did an oopsie on the right rear, the one that goes here with the big oil cooler thing. These rivets go from this side because, as I just found out the hard way, these protruding actually rest up against here, so you want them to be as flush as possible. And the instructions actually said that. I just missed it. Oopsie. Alright, I get those swapped out. You can tell, I guess some of them have some clearance depending on how it sits, but especially this one here, that one rubs right up against the cylinder head because it's also next to where that bolt is. So you want to make sure you get those in the right way. Then I was excited because baffle number 4 is done, but there's a curveball because the left rear baffle number 4 actually consists of 2 pieces. I guess it's so you can get it in and out. And then this bolt here that goes through there is a little bit of a bear to get in and out. So anyway, I got this piece done and one left. Baffle number 4.2 or number 5 is done as well. I got this to line up here. Still gotta bend these a little more. That one looks good. These look good. Trying to figure out like where these angles are. Like some of these don't really line up, so I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want this to be like high inside the cowl inlet, but I deal with this next and try and figure out what to do with the trimming there. But this came out really good. That one needs a little more turning. So yeah, really happy with all that. So long day, 10:30. I just talked to George quite a bit. He got a lot of the wiring done for the avionics, so hopefully we'll get that back soon. I was measuring some antenna cables, and yeah, I want to finish this baffle thing so we can continue. But for now, good night. All right, a little backtracking just because I had to take out the ignition coil pack again. Totally overlooked this screw. That guy goes in there, and now I'm back to working on this. And I think it looks like there's supposed to be a bend. I mean, there's an ever so slight bend here, but see, this gap is kind of big. I think this is supposed to be bent this way more to minimize that gap, and then that bent back more. So I'm gonna give that a try. Okay, so it's hard to tell if you can tell, but I bent this joggle probably about a ½ inch forward while keeping this part straight, so it kind of has like a warped bend to it, but hopefully that will come up and then sit closer against where the engine mount is while still allowing it to bolt in there and line up with that. Let's see how we did. All right, I think that made a good difference. Still kind of have a gap around here. I guess I'll just have to fill that with RTV silicone or something, but it fits a lot nicer. This seems to line up good, so I can do my bracket from the ignition coil bracket, and yeah, I'm liking it. Next step will be to rivet these, or at least match drill them, and still trying to figure out what to do with these ignition hole things. These line up right behind the coil. There's 3, you need 4. Maybe I do plug those and do something completely different. If anybody's interested, that joggle bend there that I did was about 1 3/16, 1 1/8. That seems to be what worked best for my application. That sits real good. Still have that kind of gap that goes around here, but really nothing you can do about that. I did once again deviate extremely from the instructions, and I put 2 rivets just because that bracket's long and it keeps it from spinning left and right. Got that guy in. I'll probably trim this a little bit short just so it fits. And then the last baffling frontier is the front baffle here. I think I mentioned earlier that this, for some reason, is about 1 inch taller than the passenger side. I noticed this one's made in 2020. This one's made in 2019. I see no documentation on it. Hold on. There we go. But in Tony's video, thank you once again for the 100th time. You know what? Let me put this on here. Right, there we go. He had a note that just said trim it. So it's in Tony's video, 2:55, 11 minutes in. So I don't know where to trim it, but common sense kind of tells me to just follow that line around. And by analyzing his video, it sure looks like the same trim line. So we'll go with that. If not, we'll be ordering more parts again. Chop, chop. Just like that, the plane keeps getting lighter. And it looks correct. Let's hope it is correct. And I'm gonna work on these front closeouts. I am going to use some extruded aluminum rather than the one that they supplied, because this has a radius in it, and I would like to put the angle on the outside here. I've seen some people put it on the inside, but I think it looks better on the outside here, and then with the heads of the rivets on the inside, and I want to do that all the way around. And if you do it with the rounded one, obviously you can't get it really tight in there because it's rounded and that's very sharp. So, and plus if I mess up, this is easier to get. All right, I got the outside 2 made, kind of followed the angles, and this had a very slight bend in here that I would say almost seems unnecessary. On this one I was struggling a little bit because I ended up bending this down more. It fit better on the outside here and there, so the original bend was a little more shallow. So did the same thing here, put that on. I'm not sure, I think I've seen people cut this off, so I'm not sure where that's gonna end up. Hopefully it won't look bad once it lines up with the cowling. Obviously I'm overthinking this, and my concern was because I had the different height of, you know, the left and the right baffle, so I'm kind of trying to get the top the same. So out of desperation I just put a level on it, and I leveled the engine with some shims, and I used the valve covers as a guide. I'm assuming those are going to be the closest thing to being semi-straight or straight enough. Now I'm kind of basing this part off of that, and I found that I'm going to trim that out. I trimmed a little bit in here, so these basically line up. I'm going to have to trim part of this bottom piece off as well. So nothing major, just a lot of fiddling to get it to fit. I probably shouldn't record this because people are going to think I'm crazy, but I have a level going across here, and ultimately I just kind of want to see if this and this is in the ballpark, because you really have nothing to go by, and it is. So we got that straight going across there, and this is very close to that corner, and that's the mirror image of that. Well, actually this one I trimmed with that one as a template, and I also got it to fit really good around there. You can see up here I have to trim about 1/4 of an inch off. Don't ask me why. And this one fits really good, so I can make the little brackets going around. But for now, good night. Okay, I've been futzing with these angles to make these things work for about 3 days on and off. And I've come to the conclusion that this can absolutely be filed under the rookie who thinks he knows better than the experts. Here's what I did. So you remember me talking about using the Home Depot stock or the extruded stock because it has a sharper edge. So that part makes sense because the factory piece, as you can tell, is a very rounded edge, so you can't really get it to fit. The instructions tell you to put it on the outside and put the rivets going this way. I like the idea of it being on the outside because it looks better than being on the inside, which is why I went with the sharp stuff. So I quickly realized that the sharp stuff breaks even if you heat it. And then, check this out. You can see this. But I made this piece to like literally, I was trying to make it all out of one piece, but the angles just got too ridiculous, and again it breaks very easily. It's actually to the point where I heated it, and even after it cooled, this is still very malleable. Like the original part is stronger, but that was very soft. So anyway, all that's out the window. What I did do is copy the 30 thousandths metal here. I made my own brackets, and I just put a little emphasis on making the angles you know, as sharp as I reasonably can, and yeah, so basically that's where I'm at now. So I'm making these from the outside sharp, but all individual pieces, and I'm actually going to redo these too because this is not a 90-degree angle and it's pushing this out a little bit. I could bend that in, but it's an easy piece to redo. So that was a full 360 of trying to be smart, and should have just followed the instructions. Okie doke, redid them. These are now made out of 30 thousandths, redid that, put that little crease in there. I made 1, 2, 3 in there, 1, 2, 3 in there, and I redid this one, and really this is significantly steeper angle than the 90 degrees. I can take it off and show you. But then I noticed as I'm putting this together and match drilling these, that inside on both sides, the front side baffle overlaps or underlaps the rear. So I'm going to trim out that part where it goes on the cylinder just so it sits nice. They're going to be riveted together anyway. So square as you think this might be when you first look at it, or because of the square stock that RANS gives you, this is pretty close to the angle that it needs to be. So that's not 90 degrees, it's probably another 15-20 degrees over to actually get it to fit properly and not put tension on the metal every which way. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, I guess this is a first-time builder question, but once I put this whole thing together, I realized that the left side protrudes, well, the right side, left side as I'm looking at it, the right side of the plane protrudes much further than the port side. So I put the question out there, but the engine mount is cocked a little bit too for thrust, I guess, and supposedly this lines up in the cowling. So we're going to proceed now. Let me introduce you to my family of baffle strips and mounts. Each one has a unique angle and a unique shape. Some are angled more depending on where they sit. Some have 45s cut out of them. This one has a step cut out of it where it meets another piece. This one has a bend, an angle, and a corner in it. This one, an angle. This one has that crease and that cut out of it to fit along with that. So the step cutout goes inside here. And yeah, pretty proud of them. Tomorrow I'm going to put it all together. A little bit of a journey, but the result hopefully will be good. For now, good night. Hey, look what showed up from RANS today. The replacement baffle. This one was bent backwards, if you remember, and I had bent it in this direction. So this one actually has holes up top, but no holes on the side. And it also has a hole here for, I guess, the spark plug wire to go through. So seeing how mine are all mismatched, I think I'm gonna put this in here, transfer drill these holes on here, put a spark plug hole here, put a spark plug hole over there, and integrate the new baffle into the old engine. Okay. All right, it's really time to finish up this engine baffling. I've been working on this for 2 weeks and honestly getting tired of it. Time to move on to something else. But I ended up putting both spark plug holes here, both spark plug holes there, and still trying to figure out what to do back here. I also drilled a few holes preliminary to match what we had on this side for the baffle strip. I put a 1-inch vent tube that's going to blow onto the battery for some cool air. And right now I actually want to rivet all this together, and I was checking to see if this comes out as one section and that, and it does. All right, sorry. If I was vague there, I want to rivet this on the table and then put it back in, but I wanted to make sure it all comes out. And here's what I'm talking about. So the back will be one piece, but this, and all of the front pieces can kind of come out as one piece. So that can all be riveted and go back in. And on this side, kind of the same thing. So you can get it out, in case anybody's wondering. So I got the whole front. This will be bolted. I'm not going to rivet that. This will all be riveted. Then it'll go in, and then I can rivet those back pieces in. Alrighty, got most of this together. This is all riveted. That's all riveted. I held off on these rivets just in case I need to take it out again. I put a little rubber grommets for the ignition coils there, and this was, I don't know, this took very, very long. I know I spent a lot of time cleaning and polishing the pieces that I probably don't need, or over-engineering these little brackets on the side to make sure they're perfect. Probably got about 20 hours into, no, more like 25 hours into this, and probably expected it to take half that. So there was a point where I was like, all right, this is just taking forever. And the fun factor, I've done more fun stuff. And part of the frustration was that there was different iterations of these baffles, and the baffles, the instructions, the replacement baffle from a newer version versus an old one. There's just no way to do it and be like, yes, I'm 100% sure I did everything right. And on top of all that, I still got to put the cowling on top to figure out where the strips go. And I think I mentioned earlier, like, this whole thing just seems hokey. If we're trying to cool the engine, why are we blocking it? But that's for people much smarter than me to figure out. The way all the strips are and all those little pieces, and I think there just could be more elegant way of doing it, but if somebody figures it out, let me know. Other than that, I'm gonna end the video here and move on to probably the sensors and whatever else comes next. Thank you for watching. Enjoy. Hopefully this helps. I'll give a close walk around again of what I've done. And you know, this is the way this bracket bolts onto here. I think that was questionable at first because there was tension on this. I put the rivet heads, the nice heads on the inside for airflow, even though the instructions say the other way. I hope that tolerance isn't too close. I had a question about this protruding further than this side, but I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. This piece came probably about an inch taller, so I just matched it to this side. Hopefully that's the right thing. This gets unbolted, and I tested it when it first came off. It was about 100 and something inch-pounds before the nut broke loose, but they say to tighten it to 96, so that's what I did. I put a nut and washer here rather than the rivet. Again, serviceability. Same thing there. I put, this is probably a little different than what most people do. I just put both spark plug wires here because this got really tight in there and it would interfere. I know this interferes with the top strip anyway, but nothing I can do about that. So they're kind of symmetrical. I added a 1-inch outlet there to feed cool air to the lithium battery, which will be behind that on the firewall. There's some odd breaks, like there's this tiny little bend here that makes you, kind of put that in. I don't know if it's necessary or not. I'll probably go over when I can figure out a neat way to put caulking around here and in here. Haven't done that yet. Back here, well, let's see, let's move on here. I changed these screws to the pan heads and put the star washers behind them. And this didn't quite line up, but that's absolutely the best I can get it because the cylinder head is just too short or short of making, this plate's probably just too short unless I make another one of these. I did over exaggerate this joggle quite a bit just because it looks more proper. Like it's flat down here and then it kind of bends up to there. Now the drawback is that these holes are, just as close to the ignition coil, but at least they're all kind of the same. This hole was in here. Probably gonna run the sensor wires through that for the RPM sensor on the flywheel. If we can upgrade it to the 4-inch, the newer style oil cooler thing, that was pretty easy and straightforward. There's one down here, a bolt, then this one in here I almost forgot. It's like way behind that plug, so you gotta take this off to get at it. If you had a real long screwdriver, you can actually see it through here if you have a handle that ends up here. So anyway, that's my walk around of, so I gotta put the oil dipstick back in, of the baffles. And again, not instructions, this is just how I did it. Did a lot of head scratching on this one, and but I'm relatively confident it's correct. So hopefully, maybe it'll help. Good luck, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.